All right, Matt, tell me what the plan is for the sideboarded games in this matchup against Ivan.
All right, so the sideboarded plan is actually mostly dictated by the fact that there's 8 cards in your main deck that are really bad. Those are 4 Shocks and 4 Searing Blood. 2 damage to a creature, obviously ineffective against blue-white with no creatures. Shock for 2, just not enough. So basically, we're going to look to the sideboard to try to find 8 cards that are productive. Skullcrack, Chandra, Eidolon, Glare, these are the cards you really want. And you'll see that adds up to 6. So you've got 2 more slots, and then a Banishing Light and a Wear and Tear. Those aren't effective at all against Ivan's main deck, but when he brings in those Rams, the 0/5 that gains life, you're going to want something to take those out. So you're looking at a Wear and Tear, a Banishing Light, a Skullcrack, a Glare, Eidolon, and 2 Chandra. Now, on the draw, you could also board out like a Mountain for 1 Chain to the Rocks. That gives you another way to deal with the Angel that he's bringing in or the Ram. That's kind of, I haven't quite committed to what I'm going to do there. I think I'll probably bring in 1 Chain to the Rocks. There's actually some more counterplay there because then your opponent can Planar Cleansing, get rid of the Chain to the Rocks, and really kind of blow you out. If you don't bring in Chain to the Rocks, you're not vulnerable to that. So there's a little bit of perhaps a cat and mouse. Will he leave in 3 Planar Cleansing? Will he leave in 1, 2? It's unclear. So maybe I'll have to get a feel in game 2 and go from there.
Okay, good luck the rest of the match.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right, so you heard it from Matt there. Perhaps a game of cat and mouse you were talking about in those terms as well. Players are now presenting their deck, so they've made their decisions and they've decided, look into the other person's eyes and figure, I don't really know, what the criteria is for how many creatures my opponent's going to play, and I don't think they do either.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of these players have been playtesting over and over with their teammates last night, prior to today, but at the end of the day, your teammates' preferences may be different from your opponents. At a certain point, it's kind of left up to fate.
Looks like the players are ready to fight here. And they're underway, so Mutavault to start things off for Sperling. That usually indicates that Mutavault's ready to rumble on turn 2.
Yeah, and that's actually pretty big for Sperling being on the play because Floch can't get Azorius Charm or Last Breath up. So essentially by playing Mutavault and just committing to attacking with it, he just gets in a free 2 damage. Normally you don't want to start attacking with Mutavault incredibly early because it impedes your development, but these games are going to go long. Sperling is not a blitz red deck. He's a burn deck. So every single point of damage matters.
Okay, so Young Pyromancer, and there's another one in hand here. Wow, what a stacked hand for Sperling. He's got 2 War Leader's Helix that he's not going to be able to play for a while, it looks like. But those will come in handy down the line. Wow, 3 War Leader's Helix and 2 Lightning Strike? Okay.
But not another land. I mean, no. I could see if you're Sperling just not attacking here with Pyromancer, just so that you don't get charmed and start missing land drops.
What did he draw for the turn? Did he draw a land?
Yeah,
he did, although it's not a white mana source. And he is going to attack. It's going to get charmed. Does he just fire off a Lightning Strike at Floch's face here and make a token?
Yeah, I absolutely love that play.
All right. There we go.
Sperling 20, Floch 17.
Pass the turn back to Floch. Now, Floch did not have the Nyx Fleece Ram there on turn 2, or if he did, he decided to use the Azorius Charm. Yeah, he doesn't have one. He had 4 on the board, right?
Yeah, I think he had 4 on the board.
Yeah.
Definitely, there's no universe in which you don't bring them all in. Sperling, I think, trying to say, yeah, okay, I'm going to recommit that Pyromancer to the board. So it already dealt 1 damage, essentially that token. And if Floch doesn't have Supreme Verdict, it's going to deal a lot more.
Mutavault for Floch. Passes the turn back. Sperling draws another Mutavault, so it's a welcome 4th land. Unfortunately, it's still not a white mana source, so those War Leader's Helix are going to be stuck in his hand for a while. I don't know that that's a huge deal, though, as these games tend to go long anyway. He'll probably find a white mana source at some point anyway.
Yeah, and by I mean, he could still attack for 5 this turn with Lightning Strike up. I mean, a pretty serious offense, and Floch has Azorius Charm to delay it a little bit, but the rest of his hand just Syncopate and Revelation. I mean, Floch's under a lot of pressure.
2, 4, 5 damage. Floch's got another charm.
You know, charming it is good here. I think Floch needs to do that, but it prevents him from drawing a card. I mean, he needs more interaction beyond that Sphinx's Revelation because it's not big enough to just win him the game when he cast it. He's also going to have to worry about just getting attacked with both those Mutavaults for the rest of this game.
Right. Young Pyromancer back on top now. Sperling does not use that moment to fire off the Lightning Strike.
Yeah, because if he Lightning Strikes right away, Floch can activate Mutavault and just block the token, so he doesn't really net a token if he does that.
So there's no big point. Also, he would walk into a Syncopate, which Floch happens to have.
Right. But he was able to connect for 3 damage, so Floch down to 13 with 15 points of burn in Sperling's hand. Again, the question, as always, is how fast can he cast those burn spells? Floch has Quicken. So look at another card. He's going to want to keep Syncopate mana up. Scrying first to see what his card is, just get more information.
Keeps it on top. There's a big draw step. It is another Young Pyro. Oh, that was the one on top.
Yeah,
Sorry,
right,
I forgot about that a second. Azorius Charm. So, Young Pyromancer now still threatening to keep spewing out tokens thanks to that Lightning Strike and then potentially the War Leader's Helix going forward.
I think this is actually a really hard turn for Sperling. He can attack with 2 Mutavaults and a token. He could not attack with a token because of the threat of Floch's Mutavault. He can attack with 1 and try to cast the Pyromancer. He can leave open 2 to try and Lightning Strike the Mutavault. A lot of lines he could take, even though there's, you know, only so many permanents on the battlefield. Sperling, by keeping red up, of course, representing the Searing Blood that hit Floch pretty hard last game. Floch has to assume he's not going to leave it in, but last thing he wants to do is walk into it.
Floch's tanked out pretty hard here. He's going to make a Mutavault, though. And he certainly doesn't want to get Searing Blooded here, but it's Lightning Strike instead, and that's going to get syncopated, but not a great sequence there for Sperling as he doesn't have the Young Pyromancer on the battlefield anymore, but he still has both Mutavaults active. Floch's down to 11 now, but kind of, ooh, there's a Nyx Fleece ramp, but kind of creeping up the scale here as he's going to be hitting his 6th land drop. Sort of slowly pushing things forward.
I'm looking at Floch's actual sideboard plan. We just heard he actually did not bring in Archangel of Thune. Brought in 4 Nyx Fleece Ram, 2 Last Breath. That's it. Taking down a Dissolve, 2 Planar Cleansing, 2 Supreme Verdict, and a Divination. So basically just shaving numbers off his main deck. Meanwhile, Matt, like we heard, no Shocks, no Searing Bloods for Skullcrack, Banishing Light, Glare, Chandra, Eidolon, and Wear and Tear. So to the extent that it's binary, which is not, I think Floch won the game of cat and mouse a little bit. Not a whole lot of targets beyond Ram for Banishing Light, Glare of Heresy. With only 1 Planar Cleansing in Floch's deck, though, and minus a counterspell in the form of Dissolve, not that many answers to Chandra.
Nyx Fleece Ram. Play a land and say go. You see that Floch's put a dice on top of his library as well to remind him to gain that life.
So that is a Battlefield Forge for Sperling. That means that all of those War Leaders Helix are live. And what that also means is that he doesn't necessarily have to care about Nyx Fleece Ram that much. And you see him, oh, okay, I thought he said go, and I was like, is he slow rolling the Battlefield Forge?
I thought he said go too, but so there's Quicken on end step here. Finds him a Dissolve. Does he have anything he wants to play otherwise? No. Gain 1 life and start creeping back up every turn that goes by. It just gets better and better for Floch. The longer that Nyx Fleece Ram is around, starts basically netting card advantage.
Yeah, right. Because Sperling wants to trade cards for life, that means that any life that you're able to gain is essentially like casting discard spells on your opponent. You know, sort of a tricky calculus there, but
it's true. It it equates out quite directly when you think about it that way.
So you see Glare on Sperling's end. That gets rid of the Ram and gives him a token from Pyromancer. I don't think he can, save Glare for Angel. I mean, he doesn't know whether Angel's in the deck. I mean, it happens not to be, but I mean, he's got to get that Ram off the table. He just says go.
All right, Sphinx's Revelation for 4, the full tap out. Ivan Floch just going for it here. And Matt's got to pick up the pen, so Floch's got to be relieved to see that. Jumps up to 16 life. He's going to be at 17, assuming the Ram is still around. And he's going to have a nice grip of cards here as well. He finds another Revelation as well. You mentioned it earlier, Zach. It's so key to chain those together.
Just really not using the opportunity for Floch tapped out to cast War Leader's Helix. Looks like he's saving it. Again, might be fearing Archangel a little bit. War Leader's Helix, one of the cards that can kill Archangel. But, I mean, Floch, another life from the Ram. 4 life from the Revelation. Another Revelation. I mean, that was a huge turn. Very important.
Yeah, that could have been Ivan Floch turning the corner again. Now, I wouldn't put it in the he's got it locked up camp here yet, but I feel like it's his game to lose at this point, especially with the addition of that second Nyx Fleece Ram that's going to start gaining tons of life every turn.
3 cards? 3 cards.
This could be heading down a very dark path for Matt Sperling very quickly here. That Sphinx's Revelation resolving, finding another Sphinx's Revelation could just be doom here for Sperling. Floch's at 17. Sperling's got a long way to go here, and Floch has the tools he needs to prevent that from happening. So here,
I'm going to take 1.
Going to take a damage there from the Forge, and he's going to Glare of Heresy. 1 Nyx Fleece Ram. But now Floch has mana and cards so that he can think about countering. He's going to dissolve the Glare of Heresy here.
Yeah, because those Rams are big. I mean, you just sit and gain 2 life a turn. I mean, most of your opponent's burn spells deal between 3 and 4 damage. That's like half a card every single turn of the game. Plus, being able to block for 3 is, massive. I mean, that's 3 more damage he's just not taking.
Now, is Sperling forced to use a War Leader's Helix on one of these Nyx Fleece Rams?
I mean, I think so.
Damage. Yeah.
I think so. I mean, you've got to get it off the battlefield. You get another token. And I mean, that's awkward because that just makes Floch's Planar Cleansings and Supreme Verdicts even more powerful because, they take out the Ram anyway. I mean, Ram just
25.
totally dictates the tenor of this match.
I like the fact that Sperling has Floch down to just 1 Nyx Fleece Ram, and he's got 4 creatures plus 2 Mutavaults, but this feels like a really steep hill to climb here for Sperling, especially given what we know, which are the cards in his hand. There's no Skullcrack there.
I mean, if Floch casts Planar Cleansing, Sperling can attack him right back down to 10 and helix him down to 6.
I have 1 card.
But again, he's just got to fear the untap into Revelation. I mean, what Sperling needs to do is just draw Skullcracks for the rest of the game.
Yeah,
like
and he doesn't have one now, and here is a Revelation for 6. And if that first one wasn't slamming the door on this match, it feels like this one certainly should. Floch immediately going to discard step. A couple of lands hit the bin, and he just says go at a cushy 20 life here. There's the Chandra's Phoenix for Sperling. He still has a nice board state, though, with double Mutavault and 4 other creatures. He can get in for a decent crack of damage here, but the problem, of course, is when Floch untaps again.
Right.
That's the problem, is that Sperling certainly can't close this game out within the next even 3 or 4 turns.
That said, you can afford to commit Phoenix to the board because it's just going to keep coming back. He's able to deal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 damage. I mean, it's a massive
It's
attack.
a huge hit. It is a huge hit.
Yeah, I mean,
but this is the scary part.
You're forcing Floch to cast a mass removal spell that's going to get Ram off the battlefield. I mean, it's got to, obviously you're more worried about it wiping your board. That means he's not going to cast a Revelation this turn. And I mean, Sperling again, yeah, can attack Floch down to 10. Oh, but Floch has Elixir of Immortality, so that represents 5 more life and a lot more Sphinx's Revelation.
Yeah, and he's got a Sphinx's Revelation in his hand. And this turn, though, he wanted to keep his mana up so that he could cast Last Breath plus another Last Breath or Last Breath plus Azorius Charm. And again, I've always, this is the thing that I always look for with these blue-white lists, is once they start Azorius Charming anything that's attacking, like regardless, if it's a Mutavault, it doesn't matter, just Azorius Charm it, that's when you're pretty dead.
Right. Because what that gives the control player is perfect information, not having to worry about top decks, not having to worry about something crazy, preserving the life total. Doesn't need to cycle Azorius Charm to draw cards. You have other ways of doing that. Yeah, that definitely is a big signal.
Yes.
It's also a signal that they have so many expendable resources that they can just start, burning cards on anything. And there we go. That's the death knell in my book.
Yeah.
And a Last Breath to take out the other one as well.
And this makes it harder, too, for Sperling to force through things like Stoke the Flames, things like War Leader's Helix. I mean, you just can't play around and syncopate in any meaningful way when you only have 4 lands. And this is going to be a Jace. Yeah, it is.
Jace to draw some cards. And here we are. This is a matter now of going through the motions for Floch as Matt Sperling. I don't think there's any combination of cards that he can draw. We know his next draw step is a Mutavault. He's got a War Leader's Helix in his hand plus a Mountain. But even with like double War Leader's Helix, he's not going to be able to get there through what Floch can do.
I mean, I'm just trying to think about what can happen. I mean,
you have to be very creative, like a creative genius to come up with something. And you are, to be fair to you. If anybody could come up with it, you could. I certainly can't. There's no way.
But yeah, I guess you've got to blank off the Jace. You've got to blank off a Revelation. Sperling, you'd have to chain like Skullcrack into... It basically just needs to draw 4 damage spells for the rest of the game before Floch can muster a threat. I mean, Sperling's at 29 life. He's not going to die anytime soon. But, I mean, like you said, when Jace starts to tick up, that Floch's initiating that sequence.
Exactly. Engage. Yeah, I think the outs for Sperling start to become drawing extra cards for Floch, punching a judge. Like, we have to go really deep down the rabbit hole to start to find ways that Sperling can win this one. I think that Floch just needs to decide his line for actually ending the game and execute on that.
I'm going to redirect to your Jace. So you stay at 20, I go to 32.
Okay.
Right, Sperling looks like he's going to take out Jace with the War Leader's
So I
Helix.
go then to 20. Yeah.
Yeah, you're at 20, I'm at 32.
And the sheep, the lone permanent that isn't a land on the battlefield. With its fleece made of dreams. Sperling's dreams rapidly being dashed right now.
They are.
Each point.
He looked at the top card of his library. He did keep it there.
Oh my goodness.
Because he didn't have enough going on already.
I believe that is the equivalent of still had all these.
Indeed. All right, so Chandra's Phoenix hits the battlefield here.
Yeah, that one results.
Last breathing it. It's 4 more life points for Sperling. Sperling up to 36. Not really a matchup decided by life total on Sperling's side.
Is it time for a big rev here? He's got 2 of them in his hand.
Yeah, I can't imagine not casting Revelation.
Yeah, so fired it off for 6, put him up to 27. And we are officially in going through the motions territory as Ivan Floch looks like he is going to be into the semifinal here. Sperling, his first Pro Tour top 8. Going to have to settle for a quarterfinals, though. Still an excellent result for Matt Sperling. He said on social media he is no longer, he said he's not sick of it anymore, not having a top 8. Maybe a life changer for Sperling.
Oh, man.
Jace is back. Maybe a pair of Nyx Fleece Rams. There they are.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Go.
Turn.
Yeah.
Land off the top for Sperling. Now the question is, how much can Sperling take here, right? I mean, look, there's not a great reason to concede.
Yeah, of
right? I mean,
course.
there's really no reason, but at the same time, you do have to sit here and watch your opponent go through all the motions, and it can be kind of painful at some point.
Well, I mean, your point earlier, you know, as far-fetched as it is, I mean, this is a deck that draws a lot of cards. It has a lot of operations. If your opponent just like Sphinx's Revelations for 13 and draws 14 cards, I mean, that's the game. So, I mean, you know, is it an out? Yeah. Is it a small out? Yeah. But, I mean, 1 is greater than 0.
Right.
Right?
And there's just straight up no downside.
Yeah.
Into.
So gain 2 life, and now we have a life race. Somehow Ivan Floch is closing in on Sperling's life total.
Yeah. Jace at 7, another quicken. Floch can threaten instant speed mass removal whenever he needs to.
Sperling still in the trenches here, draws yet another land. He's got Chandra Pyromaster in his hand and a pair of lands, so nothing going on. Mutavault not able to attack through 2 Nyx Fleece Rams.
And Floch just not worrying about attacking with his own Mutavault. Prevents him from Revelationing for more. Floch not firing off Revelations. He doesn't want to walk into a skull crack. No real compelling reason to need to do anything.
Go ahead.
All right, Jace takes up to 8 here.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's
There's
an
Eidolon.
Eidolon of the Great Revel.
Yeah!
Sperling with a little flourish there.
Yeah, that guy's fine.
He's still having fun down there. I can't say I would be.
Yeah, I'd be slumping in my chair with
Oh,
my head
yeah.
in my hands.
I'd be in full Bueller slouch mode at this point. There's no way.
Is that a patented variety of slouch?
Trademarked.
6.
Yep.
Sperling 36, Floch 36.
All right, well, we've got a tie on our life total, and there goes the dice off of the Jace. Is this going to prompt the concession? No. Matt Sperling's going to play it out to the finish. I respect that.
Here is the deck. What can he get? He can get Chandra, I guess. He can get
How many
Young
cards do you have?
Pyromancer. Young Pyromancer actually probably pretty sick in a blue-white control deck.
yeah,
You
you're
could cast
totally
it.
right. Although very, very fragile.
Yeah, just sitting there chaining quickens into
Yes.
each other. Might have to build a modern deck.
No kidding.
Can shuffle.
Pyromancer with Gitaxian probes. Then, of course, we're going to see Elspeth on Floch's side, I think. Oh, another Jace. Goodness.
You didn't board the Angels in?
No.
So now I think that, Sperling and Floch both know the direction the game's going, and Floch just says, no, I didn't
Yeah.
board in the Angel.
And Floch, didn't board an Elspeth either.
For them.
Yeah.
It's a 5 mana sorcery.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
Okay.
Pyromancer are actually going to be able to do a reasonably good Elspeth impression, I think.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Even if Sperling goes to kill the young Pyromancer almost immediately,
You take 2.
you Sperling with the timeout.
Sperling 36.
Sperling 40.
Solid knowledge of procedure there from Sperling.
Yeah, 54.
A Dispel from Floch. Syncopate. Last Breath. Answers to everything. More Revelations. Probably a 40 life. Goodness. I mean, Chandra can enter the battlefield and kill that Pyromancer.
I don't think Chandra's going to enter the battlefield, though.
Yeah.
I mean, here's Banishing Light.
Whatever would make you say that, Marshall?
There's about 7
How much mana do you
reasons.
I have 5 untapped.
have? Okay, so that's for 6. I'm a token.
That's for 6. I'll make a
And a
token.
token.
And then the Chandra can get countered by
32,
Dissolve.
38.
Sperling 38, Floch 34.
All right, dissolve that, make another token.
A token.
Moving on. And you were right, Zach. Look at that.
Yeah.
We're now at Elspeth levels of tokens, and it is before Ivan gets to untap as well. So,
Oh, man, going off. Quicken.
We can make
Oh.
a token.
You having fun?
Poor Matt.
Actually, I do.
Yeah. I think if you've played this deck for this long, if you weren't having fun, you would not be playing blue-white control with 1 win condition in your sideboard for 3 days of play at a
I
Pro Tour.
respect Ivan's answer.
Yeah,
He said, I
actually,
do.
yeah. Really
I'm
enjoy
having
this.
fun.
Save you the vault.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah, Jeej. Sorry, man.
4, you lose 6.
So I go to
36, right?
36. Yeah.
Sperling 36. Floch
So back down to 36 for Matt Sperling.
And Elixir.
I already plus this guy, right?
You did, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Basic Mountain, a powerful draw for Sperling. Those Arabian Nights mountains.
Just draw
No,
one.
those are just beta.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Those
the
are really
Arabian
good.
Nights ones are a little more faded.
7.
I'm an expert.
So I go to 4.
You like snapped that answer off.
I did. I've done a lot of research on this. I own one Arabian Nights mountain. It's in my commander deck.
And you talk to Patrick Sullivan a lot.
Okay.
I wish I did.
Yeah, it's nice.
Talk to him
It
sometimes.
is nice.
Every time I do, I'm happy I did. All right, so Floch fires off another massive Sphinx's Revelation, and I think you guys at home know the way this works. We've seen a bit of a clinic on Sphinx's
Oh, my
Revelation
goodness.
just in this very match.
48 life from Floch. You just gotta. The quest is, can he a Johnny ultimate without a Johnny? Can he just get up to 100? It's a new race. It's a mini game. It's like Shahrazad. Talking about a lot of Arabian Nights cards today.
Yeah.
All right. So all of Floch's cards turn into whatever they do, make a token. Cycle Azorius Charm, make a 1/1. Cycle Quicken, make a 1/1. Draw 2 cards, make a 1/1. Have a little engine going on.
All right, huge attacks here from Floch, who is finishing things
Naz.
off eventually. He's got a Nyx Fleece Ram. He's going to discard.
The nail in the coffin.
Yeah, that happened a while ago.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that
yeah.
we're talking about the flowers being brought a year later here. This is the widow visiting.
Okay.
All right, let's
Ah,
make
yes.
some more things.
Quicken. Accelerate the pace.
I assume you're brewing right now, Zach. Like
I really am. I am so excited
have
to
another
play
weekend.
Young Pyromancer Control.
do another.
And charm. Okay.
You can use these upside down or something.
All right. Can I?
I suspect.
I think he's actually ran our table judge out of tokens now.
Another weekend.
Yeah.
He's going for the North American record at some point.
Charm.
Yep. Chain Veil
And
tokens.
charm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just make it happen.
Weekend.
Yeah. Just keep them coming. Oh, more of it.
Yeah.
Counterspell.
I'm tapping game 3.
Yeah. Untapping game 3.
In response to the triggers, I'm going to skull crack you.
All right. I love it. that-
Tight
that
play from
He
Sperling.
gets dispelled, but Matt Sperling,
Yeah.
you know, he's doing a great job of
53.
keeping it light. You know, he's
Oh, yeah.
not.
Floch 53.
Yeah, these guys aren't that.
Yeah.
Then my draw step. I'll pause this guy.
Goodness.
Attack with all these. 6.
How many tokens is that?
I go
He's,
to
he's hitting for
15.
13, I believe.
Jeez.
Sperling 15.
Yeah. So that's gonna drop Sperling down to 13, or 15. Excuse me. He draws another skull crack.
Trigger on the stack.
Game 3.
56.
Lets it happen.
Sperling 15. Floch 56.
56 is not a number I can recall seeing in the feature match table in a very, very, very long time.
Everyone.
Get him.
Good luck, rest of the top 8.
All right, and a handshake for Matt Sperling says, Ivan Floch at 56 life and 1,000,000 creatures on the battlefield. You are in to the semifinals. Whew. So it took a while to get there.
Yeah.
But that game was decided many turns ago. You know, we kind of already knew at some point there that that one was not going to last, or that it was going to last a while, but that it was effectively over. That's Zach Hill. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. Welcome back to the booth, guys. But we do have our 2 semifinalists now.
Yeah, and we've got a sweet little young Pyromancer control brew that I'm going to go and make on Magic Online right when we get out of the booth.
Yeah, I like this idea quite a bit. Now, we're still going to be bringing you 2 more quarterfinal matches, right? So remember, if you guys haven't watched in a little while, we now line up the quarterfinals. We used to run them simultaneously and kind of jump around to what was going around, but instead, it's in a row. So you get to see every match we play for the whole entire top 8 here on a Sunday. It's going to be a great day of Magic, so grab a glass of water, grab a sandwich, or is it breakfast time? Maybe grab some breakfast and hang out with us all day. For now, though, let's head back over to the news desk where Richard Hagan awaits.
Thanks very much to Marshall and Zach. I'm here with Luis Scott Vargas. Luis, I don't really feel qualified to talk about that particular quarterfinal because I've rarely seen a card I like more than Elixir of Immortality, except possibly Sphinx's Revelation. So, you know, I'm kind of a little bit biased in that way, but that did look like a bit of a kicking.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, once Floch's deck gets rolling, there's really no stopping it. And the first rev is the most important one because it all just leads to more revs. That's the whole point of the deck.
Yeah, and well done to Matt Sperling, his first Pro Tour top 8, and extremely gracious in defeat because you've been on the wrong side of matches in the spotlight. We're all super competitive. It's never fun, but he conducted himself with great dignity and no little skill this weekend. So great job, Matt Sperling. But it is Ivan Floch, the Slovak national champion, former Team World champion, who advances to the semi-finals against Owen Turtenwoud. That'll be our first semi-final a little bit later on. But we now turn our attention to the second part of the bracket, and our third quarterfinal is going to see Yuki Ichikawa of Japan up against Jackson Cunningham of Canada. So why don't we take a look at Yuki Ichikawa and see his profile for you. Yuki Ichikawa, he's from Japan, and he's only playing in his 4th Pro Tour here, and astonishingly, Luis, it's his 2nd Pro Tour top 8. No one does that.
Yeah, I can't even imagine having played in 4 Pro Tours, top 8ing 2 of them. That's just absurd.
It absolutely is, and it's not even like you're playing the same format with exactly the same cards. He's just fantastic. If you don't know, he is arguably the world's most popular streamer of Magic the Gathering. Back in Japan, he is a proper rock star of the streaming community, has just crazy, crazy numbers. So that is, if you don't know much about him in real life, we know that the Japanese numbers are off the charts, getting ready to watch this match coming right up. Why don't we see how Ichikawa made it here to the top 8 of the Pro Tour Magic 2015, began in draft, and how about that for a start? You face now Hall of Famer Paul Rietzel, then you go to 0-2 against Takeshi Ozawa, and then you have to face Matej Zatlkai to see whether you get out of draft alive at 0-3 or 1-2. He beats Matej, but even so, after 5 rounds, he's lost again to one of our semi-finalists, Ivan Floch. He's sitting at 2-3 with 3 rounds to go, and then just look. Utter Leighton, Bull, Scarron, Lesh, Johnson, Bernice, Dos Santos Vieira, Seibold, and that back end, talk about backbone. Can you imagine trying to just go 3-0 back-to-back, Su Ching Kuo, William Jensen, John Finkel? Luis, that's an incredible run.
Yeah, I mean, he had to rattle off 11 wins in a row at the end there to make top 8, which is awesome.
Yeah, just phenomenal. Why don't we take a look at his deck, because Yuki is playing Jund Planeswalkers, and Luis, there is a ton going on in this one.
Yeah, I really like this deck. I especially like that he maxed out on 4 Elvish Mystics and 4 Nissa Worldwakers and 4 Xenagos the Reveler. Those are all the really important cards, and he just figured it out. These are just the best cards. I should play as many as I can of all of them.
Can you give us a sense of what Nissa could or should do for him in this matchup?
It basically puts just like almost limitless number of 4/4 Tramplers into play. And the fact that our lands mean they can't be detention sphered, they dodge ultimate price, they dodge a lot of the removal that gets played, and they're recurring threats. Even if you deal with the 4/4, Nissa's going to make another. If you deal with the Nissa, you still have a 4/4 to worry about. So basically the whole way this deck works is incremental advantage, and Nissa's just a really big part of that.
All right, so that is Yuki Ichikawa. His opponent is Jackson Cunningham. Wow, again, experience, not really. This is his first Pro Tour, and he's in the top 8. Now, we'd like to bring someone from the testing team in to chat to us, maybe a friend. Well, this time, it's not just friend, it's family. Over at the easy chairs, it's Marshall Sutcliffe and Jeff Cunningham.
Hey guys, welcome to the Easy Chairs. Marshall Sutcliffe, and I've got Jeff Cunningham with me now. Jeff, you're Jackson's older brother.
Right.
But you're also a very well-known Magic player as well. I remember I came back to the game 2008, 2009,
Right.
and I'm like, who is this Jeff Cunningham guy? Everybody knows you. You're known for writing,
Right.
all types of things like that. Now, has this been a little surreal for you, seeing your little brother make his first top 8 in his first PT debut?
Completely surreal for such a variety of reasons. He's very humble, but I had high hopes and I was pushing him, but I didn't expect the whole Cinderella story to come together the way it has, yeah.
How stressful is it for you watching him play? Is it more stressful for you to play yourself or to watch him?
Well, that's a nice consolation that when I used to play and I used to get in the late rounds, it was stressful for me and I'd be playing. For this, it's stressful for me, but I can go pace and chill out and drink a glass of water. So I am enjoying being in the coach role.
Okay, now talk about the role that you have taken with Jackson over the course of your testing, and then also talk to us a little bit about your preparation after he made the top 8.
Right. I'd say I've been around the Pro Tour for a long time, and I've tried a lot of different methods of testing, and I know what works and I know what doesn't. And he works full time, so he had a schedule and I had a schedule. So it was really the most efficient and successful testing I've ever had for any kind of Pro Tour. It was very analytical, very discussion-based, and we just talked it through and worked it through. I came to him at the beginning and I said, these are the pillars of the format. Yeah, by the way, it's his maybe 3rd constructed tournament of his life. Wow. And so I just explained it to him. We talked about the decks, played a few games, talked about how it felt. And just as it went along, we went from one deck to another, settled on this, very carefully tuned the sideboard, very precise, and we took it really seriously all the way through. Before we started, he said, my goal is just to make day 2. And I said, that's what everyone says for the first Pro Tour, and that's not good enough. You have to go higher, and we can go higher.
Wow, you have pushed him to the highest level currently. He's now in the top 8. Talk to us a little bit about what it was like last night after he made it. Was it emotional? Also, did you guys buckle down and get some testing in for this matchup?
He crashed quickly. We just went for food. He's exhausted. Yeah, most of the emotion came during the day and at the end of the day. Right, but then I went and tested the matchup and came to him with some notes this morning.
Do you feel like you've got it pretty well sussed out for him?
It's sussed out, yeah.
You know, because the deck that Ichikawa's playing isn't necessarily one that you consider a pillar of the format.
No, that's exactly it. It was
yeah.
a curveball, and we weren't expecting it, and we were more prepared, of course, for the pillars. But that said, I think we've learned what the deck does, and we've planned as well as we can.
Okay, and confidence level with the matchup? Do you feel?
Hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. And
sure.
This is a tough matchup. Yeah.
Okay. How do you think Jackson felt coming into this morning? You said he crashed out last night. That's pretty typical after a long day at the tournament tables. When he woke up, was he happy, refreshed, or was he a little jittery? I know if it was me,
He's been
shaken.
a little jittery every day, but never so much that it affects him. He has a lot of composure once he gets into the arena.
I'm sure you have a big influence on that too, right? You can guide him, and having been here.
It's nice having 2 people to manage those things. Yeah.
Yeah. What was it like play testing with your brother as opposed to some teammate that you happen to pick or something? I mean, do you guys, having grown up together, are you able to communicate very easily? Like, you can cut out a lot of the overhead.
Yeah, there's just a lot of trust and good communication. So like having a good friend. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Jeff, thanks for joining us over here and having a chat, and we'll let you get over to root on your brother Jackson.
Great. Thank you.
For now, why don't we send it back to the news desk where Zach and Rich await.
Thanks very much, Marshall, and thanks very much to Jeff Cunningham. Zach, I'm an only child. I can't really imagine what it must be like, the stress and tension of watching a family member go through a top 8. Although the closest I think I've ever been to that was seeing Barbara Utter-Layton, Josh's mum, watching him in the top 8 of the World Championships 2011. There's so much on the line, not just for the players, but for the support networks too.
Exactly, and I mean, and it's. I think that's got to be one of the upsides of testing with somebody who you're so close with. Is that there's a lot of these Magic teams. They have your back, but if it's your family, I mean, Jeff was talking about staying up, testing, trying to figure everything out, and just being there for you at the end of this. So I'm excited to see how Jackson does.
All right, so why don't we take a look in a little bit more detail at Jackson Cunningham. Now, it turns out his profile, well, that's a story largely to be written. He is in his first Pro Tour, lifetime earnings of 0. His first 3 Pro Tour points came by playing here on day 1, but he is already going to be at 20 lifetime pro points, even if he loses his quarterfinal, which of course by no means certain, and not played in many Grand Prix, 27-year-old from Canada. Why don't we take a look at how he made it to the top 8. Now, we've already seen a couple of players who were very much kind of behind the ball. Yuichi Ichikawa, for example, was at 0-2 and put on a huge run. We've seen Owen Turtenwald have losses earlier in the tournament. But Jackson, he came out early, 3-0 against a decent draft pod. Then we went into standard, 2-1 over Gary Wong. Then he lost against William Jensen, but a strong finish, Maryam, Reeves, and Koska. Came back on day 2, went into draft, and at that point you're thinking, okay, from 7-1, an unknown player in his first Pro Tour, loses to Owen Turtenwald, you kind of expect that. Pierre Mondon, okay, so he loses there. That's 2 in a row. Is this going to be a classic 7-1, 1-7 day? It was not. He went all the way, sweated the last round against Patrick Cox, but made it in anyway. And Zach, I can tell you that the players are ready. It is time for Jun Planeswalkers against Green-White Aggro, Ichikawa against Cunningham. It's time for the 3rd quarterfinal here at Pro Tour Magic 2015.